Good morning. We are going to be learning today Rambam and Hilchos Carbon Pesach and in Hilchos Chametz Matzah that are related to each other. And basically, the Rambam says there's three things when you bring a Carbon Pesach. We know that from the Seder, there is the kairach sandwich, which our sandwich is missing something. The meat, the beef, not the beef, but the meat of the Carbon Pesach. But that's what they used to eat. According to Hillel, they made it one sandwich. But either way, in the Beis Hamikdash, for sure, there was three things: Pesach, matzah, and marror together. Now the Rambam describes this as follows: Ve'ein matzah u'marror ma'akev. Matzah and marror are not a hindrance for the mitzvah of Carbon Pesach. And he continues. So that's it. Done. Doesn't prevent the fulfillment of the Carbon Pesach. But the Rambam doesn't stop there. Im loy matzu matzah u'marror. They didn't find matzah marror. You're even just eating Pesach. Okay, finished. Done. Now, aval marror below Pesach ain't a mitzvah. Marror without Pesach is not a mitzvah. Shnemal matzahs and roim yechid. So again, matzah marror not ma'akev the mitzvah Carbon Pesach. Two, if you didn't find matzah marror, bring the Carbon Pesach, which passage seems very redundant. Third, marror by itself without the Pesach is nothing. It's not a mitzvah. It doesn't say nothing. It ain't a mitzvah. Now let's go back. Hilchos Chametz Matzah, Perek Zayin Halacha Yud Beis. Achilas marror ain't a mitzvah in our Torah b'fnei atzma. The eating of marror by itself is not a mitzvah. Okay, depends on Carbon Pesach. So he already told us that, and then he repeats it again in Hilchos Carbon Pesach. And here he goes, things that l'cheri don't belong here. But let's see. Shemitzvahs esa achas is one mitzvah. Lechem tzara Pesach al matzahs and reg. Eat Pesach together with matzah. Umidivrei sefer lecha mar levade b'leil zeh avalation Carbon Pesach. And midivrei sefer is a mitzvah to eat marror by itself on this night, even if there's no Carbon Pesach. Okay. So, where does this come from? And why do we separate matzah and marror? Matzah is a mitzvah, as he says before this in Hilchos Chametz Matzah. The Gemara says, "Amar Rava matzah was manazeh deraisa marror d'Rabbanon." Like the Gemara, why? What's the difference? Both of them say a matzah marror nachli, which we learn out was mandika pesach eshmar, was mandaleka pesach lekama. He says matzah nami. It says the same thing. So I says no. There's a separate pasuk. Be'erev teichlu matzahs. Now, Rav Acha by Yaakov argues, he tells that even matzah was manazeh d'Rabbanan. And he says, the pasuk be'erev teichlu matzahs. Listen to this. That somebody in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, when there was a Carbon Pesach, and he wasn't able to eat the Carbon Pesach, so you would think he shouldn't eat matzah and marror. Kamash malon. He says, Rava says, well, of course he has to eat matzah and marror. He says, Rava says, there can't be such a thing. You don't need such a pasuk. Because it's not worse than an oral and a benecher who's not allowed to eat the Carbon Pesach. And we learn out, So let's get straight. According to Rava, matzah is not as the rice and marror is the rabbanon. According to Rabbi M, both are the rabbanon is manazeh, right? And according to what's the pasuk matzah according to Rabbi M, telling us that a person who was not capable of bringing a korbon pesach at the time of the Beis Hamikdash still has to eat matzah marror with the rice. And Rava says, of course he has to eat that. He's not worse than an oral and a benecha. And there's a pasuk that says that an oral and a benecha, an oral is leyechel by boy, but he can eat matzah marror, or he's going to eat matzah marror. So, first of all, when it says, we would think, right, that a person that's a tame or the soul can die to come in. The Gemara says, keeping the pesach like since he doesn't eat the korbon pesach matzah marror, that he should eat matzah marror, or that he could eat matzah marror. It's not clear. So the Ran asks, whatever does marror come in here? Of course you can't eat marror. Of course you're not mechuyev to eat marror. Marror lav dafke. You got to eat it together with the pesach or mizman pesach. Only matzah we're talking about. So why does it say marror? Shiur's lishnitz. It's just like, when you say matzah, you say marror, but it doesn't really mean marror. Miri says the same thing. Okay. However, the Rambam seemed to think it's important to write marror. And as the Minchas Chinuch says, you can't say Shiur the Lishna on the Rambam. You can't say that the Rambam just wrote it for, because that's the way you say the words. Why? The Rambam writes, oral she'ochel kazayis mipsara pesach, like an oral that ate kazayis on the pesach gets malchus. Shenema called oral yechel. Boy hu she'ena echel. Rambam adds. And then the second thing, he doesn't eat. He's not allowed to eat the korbon pesach. Aval eichelu matzah marror, but he could eat matzah. Came mutter lahachel. No. Came mutter lahachel, not mitzvah. Mutter lahachel matzah marror leger teishav ulusachir, which is a guy. But there's not a mitzvah. You could give it to him. Teishav says, "Last what's the have meaning not to give it to me? What is it? Holy matzah marror." Yeah, so he goes through different halachas regarding it, but it's not on our sugi, and I don't want to get into it. Okay, so I just to say that the Minchas Chinuch writes that the lashon of the Rambam, first of all, Minchas Chinuch wants to be mechadish that there might be a difference between mizman hazeh and mizman habayis with eating matzah marror, that you could eat marror, that you're zachiv of marror even if you didn't bring a korbon pesach. Mizman habayis, as long as there's a korbon pesach in the world, whereas today is different. Okay, that's to be dependent on a different shiloh whether there is korbon pesach mizman hazeh. There could be korbon pesach mizman hazeh. That's a whole discussion on its own. It was a big machlekes in the Perokim that if there could be a korbon pesach mizman hazeh. Okay, but he says that the Rambam definitely mentions marror there and can't say Shiur the Lishna on the Rambam. Yeah, I want to go over some of the things we mentioned when we read the Rambam and just note. He says, matzah marror makrim. Why does he repeat? If you don't find matzah marror, you yates to the chiv of pesach. Of course, it's not makrim. You yates. He writes, "Aval marror b'loy pesach ain't a mitzvah." That doesn't belong here. That belongs in Hilchis Korbon in chametz matzah, and he wrote it there already. And he wrote it in Hilchis matzah. So why does he write it again here? He writes in Hilchas chametz matzah, achilas marror ain't a mitzvah. Then he writes again, mitzvah esach achas lechel basar. That's exactly what he just said. Tluyi hi b'achilas pesach. So what's he repeating it? And really, where he should have written that mitzvah achas lechel basar pesach al matzah marror is in Hilchas korbon pesach. He writes Medivri Seif Lech Lamar Levada Belel Pezeh. I feel the Ein Sham Carbon Pesach. I feel the Ein Sham Carbon Pesach is L'Cheira a little extra. The main point is that there's a mitzvah to eat without a Pesach. The mitzvah by itself. Or you should have written Mizman Hazeh, like it says in the Gemara. You're right, that's such a big order, but it's just a point to bring up. And then you have the question why he mentions marror by oral sha'achol kazayis and boyoy neichel matzah marror. Why does he mention marror there? So let's examine what is this halacha before we get to the Rambam, before we get to anybody. Just let's examine. This that marror is dependent around kluya ba'achilas haPesach. Is it a gzeres hakos? When you have a Pesach, you have marror. Or that mitzvah's marror is part of the mitzvah of Korbon Pesach. And therefore there's no Korbon Pesach, there's no marror. So that'll answer why the Rambam felt the need to write mitzvah esa achas lechol b'sara Pesach al matzah, to stress that second approach. That why? That the kiyum mitzvah's Korbon Pesach is through matzah. Where did he learn that from? He learned that from this brisa. Kol or lo yeichel boy eineichel abaleichel matzah. He learns pshat. Why talk? Why is there chiyuv marror? There is a chiyuv of matzah marror that belongs to the Korbon Pesach. So, boyena eichel, aval eichel matzah marror means not the matzah marror of be'erev teichel matzahs. Let's say the matzah. Let's talk about matzah. Not the matzah of erev teichel matzah. It's the matzah of Korbon Pesach. I just chazer over the famous. You say there's two inyanim of matzah. There is the mitzvah of matzah as its own mitzvah, and then the mitzvah of matzah that belongs to the Korbon Pesach. Boyein eichel means that there is there's an inyan of eating matzah in Korbon without the Korbon Pesach, part of the mitzvah's Pesach. In other words, just like we said, it's not ma'akiv to eat a Pesach without a matzah marror. You could be mekayim. There's a kiyum of eating matzah marror without the Pesach. Not a kiyum. But matzah marror. You ate matzah marror. You ate matzah marror. That's how you're eating crackers and bitter herbs. You're eating matzah marror, and then it belongs to, it's part of the Korbon Pesach. And there's no Korbon Pesach, doesn't matter. That mitzvah still there. That you're still being mekayim of matzah marror. That's what the boy. So it's not shigras lishna. Even on matzah marror, it's not shigras. Even matzah doesn't mean the you eating matzah. You eat matzah, matzah. The chiddush here is that there is a kiyum of eating matzah marror when you do it. So that's why he writes, "I'm a marror b'lei Pesach ein a mitzvah in Hilchos Korbon Pesach." To stress that there is no tzivui, ain't a mitzvah, but you're eating it. There's a kiyum of the mitzvah. There's a kiyum of eating marror. And that's what he writes. Ain't matzah marror mark, and that's number one. Then he writes in like even though it's one mitzvah. And you need matzah marror for the kiyum of Korbon Pesach. So he's telling you, no, it's not only not market, you were yetziv to completely the chayvus Korbon Pesach. And then, contrary to that, marror b'lei Pesach ain't a mitzvah. What is it? It's a kiyum. And even matzah the matzah of Pesach that you're missing without a Korbon Pesach is also a kiyum. So now let's go to the next shayla. So in other words, what we're being mechadish here, and the Chiddush is really an important point, especially according to this, you say that there are two dinim in matzah. There's the matzah of Korbon Pesach, there's the matzah of Pesach. It's two separate halachas. There's the matzah mereimim, and then there is the be'er of teichel matzahs. So here we're also not talking about be'er of teichel matzahs. That's the Chiddush in this halacha. The Chiddush is halacha going to Rambam is that you are doing these that chelik of matzah also when you're eating it. You're not going to do it, but you do it. You're beguy. In a similar sense of eating matzah the rest of Pesach. No chiyuv, no mitzvah, what we've spoken about in the past, but there's a kiyum of the mitzvah. There's a kiyum of that mitzvah. There's no Korbon Pesach. That's the Chiddush. So I want to just go through when it says which marror is this? Is this the marror of Korbon Pesach that they said we should still do, sort of as a zeicher to that marror? No, or they took that kiyum and made it a mitzvah, made it a mana. Or no, it's the be'er of teichel matzahs marror. In other words, they made a new marror. A marror of her Pesach, zeicher l'yitzias Mitzrayim. So ulai, that's why in Hilchis Pesach, in Hilchis Chametz Matzah writes, mitzvahs acha asa achas lechel b'sar pesach hamatzim re'im. Right? Umedivrei seifim lechel amor v'le'adim v'le'zeh afilu ein sham Korbon Pesach is stressing, no, you're still mekayim that Pesach dikim marror. It's not a new mitzvah marror. And that's why he stresses ein sham Korbon Pesach. Now, now that we're saying that when you eat matzah marror on Leil Zeh, even if there's no Korbon Pesach, there's a kiyum of the mitzvah. Okay, now there's a place to think. You know, they ask, well, what's a hamin? Is there kedusha matzah marror? Yeah, there's a kiyum of mitzvah. Maybe you shouldn't be giving it to them. So that's why he's stressing here that so it comes out that this is a whole Hilchas Korbon Pesach, and even when he writes there the marror that's there is all the Pesach marror, the Korbon Pesach marror. And what you're being mekayim is, you're mekayim that mitzvah by eating it, even though there's no Korbon Pesach. Mitzvah achas. So just like there's a ma'akim in the kiyum of Pesach and matzah, there's also the Korbon Pesach not ma'akim. Could be that's shot anyway. I use up the stark and be well.